guessed that May was saying, "Let her try," while Papa Great concluded, "Fear's got her by the scruff." Fact was, I wasn't afraid of what was in the ocean. Why, a man-of-war had wrapped its tentacles around my second cousin Randy's calf 2 mornings ago, leaving thin red burn marks, as if he had been caught in one of the wild hog traps Daddy set along the swamp. And even after Mama had numbed Randy's leg with meat tenderizer and let me touch it, so I could feel the heat rising off his seared skin, I still jumped right back into the gully that afternoon. And just this morning Papa Great had caught a sand shark longer than my leg on his fishing line, and I had touched its leathery belly with the tip of my big toe as he held it between his knees and pulled the hook out of its snout. But right after, I went back in with Daddy to venture to the sandbar and collect my treasures. No, it wasn't fear of what was in the water. Seems to me I just didn't want that dark and covered feeling, not knowing which way was up, not knowing if Daddy would find me. The water wings were swirling in the breeze along the beach now as I stood knee-deep in the gully, and since I prided myself in keeping track of my belongings, I stepped out to chase after them, to pin them beneath Daddy's beach chair. "Don't worry about those, gal," he said as he stood back up in the water and shook his head so that his soaked hair looked like 2 fins above his ears. "Now come on in." The water was a gray-green broth, and when I stepped back in I could feel the sand and shells stir up for a moment, but I couldn't see through the clouds to whatever was swirling around my legs now. All of a sudden Daddy moved forward and pulled me out by my elbow with his only hand. He smelled like sweat and coconut suntan lotion, and I had to paddle quickly with my other arm beneath his fiery pink stump to stay afloat. The stump was wrinkled at its very tip, from where a doctor had sliced off his forearm in an army hospital in Tan Khe, Vietnam. Sometimes I asked him what the hospital had done with his other arm, and he winked and said they fed it to the dogs before admitting that he didn't have the foggiest idea. Now I was flailing my arms and gasping for air as we reached the gully depths, and he said, "I'm going to let go, all right? I'll be here if you need me." He released my arm, and I tried to touch bottom just to get my bearings, to get a nice shove up and out of the water. Some momentum. But as my foot searched for the sharp shells that lined the floor, I was already sunk, and when I breathed in the water, it stung my nose and throat. "Easy now," Daddy said, lifting me above the surface for a moment so I could cough it out. Then, "Here we go again, gal." And he dropped me down and stepped back fast. I tried whirling my arms and legs into a motion that would buoy me, but before you could say boo, I was covered in the dark soup again and holding my breath. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, covered in darkness, water rushing into my nose. He found my shoulder this time, pulled me up, and dragged me onto the shore, where I coughed for dear life and rubbed my burning eyes. My heart was pounding like the wings of the hummingbirds that sipped from May's feeder most afternoons, and the tiny bits of crushed shells were clinging to the backs of my legs and gathering in the folds of my bathing suit. "You're my little fish, Adelaide," Daddy said. Papa Great had given him the month of August off so that he could vacation with us, and as long as I had his hand and a float, I'd go way out beyond the waves and let the current push us down the beach toward the pier. "I know you can do it," he whispered now. "Dinner time," Julia Bell called from the screened porch. I could see her long, thin neck craning to check on me. She never went near the ocean. Her younger brother had drowned in the surf when she was a girl, and she said it would do me good to know how to keep myself afloat. But I guessed even she was concluding that I couldn't do it. Not this year, anyway. The porch door slapped once as Papa Great ambled out onto the boardwalk to holler down at us. "Maybe next summer, son," he called to Daddy as he caught a mosquito in his fist and examined